We all know how amazing Amber is. I threw that at her just a day or two ago and said, and of course, if you know the song, you know that Celine Dion and Andrew Bocelli, he sings in Italian, she's English. And she says, well, I've got 2 gigs to do, and I can't promise, but maybe. So she comes in this morning, and here it is. Yeah. Such a joy, such a joy. And of course, Sabre, what bookends, right? They just solid. When I was a kid, grown-ups would say things I just didn't understand. And, one of the things I didn't understand was, well, I remember when you were just a twinkle in your father's eye. And I'm going, huh? I did not get that. Well, having lived some years and been through some relationships, I get what the twinkle is all about. The twinkle in your father's eye. And I'm here to remind us that we are all twinkles in our divine Father's eyes. We are all twinkles. So when I think about what that twinkle really represents, it's the urge to build, to create, to express. And ideally, it's born of love. It's born of love. So when I think about my dad, I think of all the ways that he was loving, ways in which he was the provider, ways in which he was the discipliner. My mother could too, but it's the traditional conditioning is wait till your father gets home because he's the one that's going to set you straight, right? The protector. It was the father who protected the family, and of course the mother as well. But it takes both. It takes both. When we look at the metaphysical meaning of male and female, we say that thought plus feeling equals manifestation. Male, in the scriptures and metaphysically thinking, males are the thought. It all starts with a thought. And then that thought, once it's received in the subconscious, the female part of us nurtures that, nurtures it, until it's manifest. Thought plus feeling equals manifestation is Unity's third tenet. And it is also the marriage made in heaven. The marriage made in heaven. So it was both parents, but I think sometimes the father, it was his responsibility to teach principles, a principled life, and to model it. Integrity, how to be honest and do what you say you're going to do. These are things that I typically think of as male energy. The male energy, which is so necessary. On Mother's Day, we get roses. That's easy. On Father's Day, one year I gave you little toy hammers. I don't know if you still have them or not. That's because fathers are builders, and fathers are the cornerstone upon which our consciousness is built. That seed idea. So I have a little bucket here of tools that represent fathers and all of us who have the father principle. As many of you know, because I've talked about it, I tore down a house, not me, my then husband, and another couple. Tore down a church in Georgia. Slept in the church until there was no church to sleep in. And we slept in tents, but we slept on the property because we wanted to protect all of the lumber. Back in the day, this little church didn't have the strand board that a lot of our structures have. It was hurricane construction, if you know what that means. Boards on the slant made up the subwall. So it was my job to tear off all of the shingles, the asphalt shingles that were on the side of the church. And then some man would come along and tear off the board and put it on 2 sawhorses. And my job was to pull nails. Pull those nails. I used a hammer, but I also used something called a wonder bar. And that was a whole lot easier. And when those boards were clean, we put them over in a pile to be reused. So my first little tool of choice is the hammer. The hammer. So metaphysically, what is a hammer? It's an idea, it's a tool. Repetition, 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 until the idea sinks in. We can call them affirmations. We can call them denials. Whatever we call them, the hammer is the repetition until it's positioned, the idea is positioned where it needs to be. Now, sometimes when we hammer, the nail will go this way. It'll go that way. We make a mistake. So that's what the other end of the hammer's for, right? To yank it out. Yank it out. Any idea that is an erroneous idea that does not align with spiritual principle can be yanked out. So, that's the hammer. Oh, here's a good one. A screwdriver. This is for when we screw things up. We can unscrew it till we pull it right out. Or it can be a companion to the hammer where we screw things in. Where it's not so easy to dislodge it. One presence, one power, and that is God, and God is love. That is something you want to screw in. Your foundational principle. A level. For me, this is about communication. The Father who teaches communication skills and models them. Keep it balanced, keep it fair, keep it just, and keep it honest. Your conversations. Don't blow things out of proportion. They're only molehills, no mountains. Keep it on the level. And here's the saw. Isn't this a nice one? Still got its... Never had to use this one. Cut through the superfluous. Cut through what doesn't really matter. That's simple. A saw comes in handy. And it helps us to make the right size of situations. And then the flashlight. A really good one here. This helps us see the path. I remember my family was camping, and there was a skunk outside the tent near the trash can. Another thing I didn't understand as a child. So my dad goes out and he says, "It's a polecat." And I heard cat. Here, kitty, 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 kitty. He came back in the tent and he said, "It's a skunk, Donna, it's a skunk." So, show us the path. It's what a father does. A good father doesn't tell you where to step necessarily, but it shows you and you make the decision. You create your path. And then, one of my favorite, the paintbrush. Aha. The creme de la creme. After you're building. This paintbrush, to me, represents possibilities. Infinite possibilities of color, of creating beauty, of expressing yourself. So, there were other things I could have put in here. One was a big blueprint. We have a divine blueprint within us. We're born with it. We are destined to be creators, positive creators, just creators, creators who live by spiritual principle, who grow up to become the bearers of truth for other people and for our children. So, I was reading a story about a congresswoman, and I can't remember her name, but she once said to Kennedy, it was during Kennedy's era, she said, "What is your statement?" She said, "You need a sentence, one sentence," because she was concerned that he got so distracted with so many things that his sentence became a run-on paragraph. So a sentence could be something like Abraham Lincoln. What is the defining sentence for him? He preserved the Union and he freed the slaves. One sentence. Thomas Edison. He failed a lot and then he succeeded. What would I say about my own father? He joyfully and happily worked his whole life until he was unable, and that was at the age of 92. He had such a strong work ethic. I don't know where this picture is, or I would have brought it, but when I was ordained, I was in my 40s. And he and my mother both, even though they've been divorced for years, they made the trip together for my ordination. And I've got a picture of the two of us, my dad and me, and the grin on his face was larger than mine. He was so proud. One of the ways that I still feel so loved by the thought of my father and my mother. So, this energy, this male energy, is the twinkle in God's eye. It is that impulse to seize life, to give to life and to create life. Jesus was a carpenter, and he said, I came that you can have life and have it more abundantly. And I don't think he was talking about money. Life. Come alive. You know, came across this little quote from Zoroaster. Nobody grows old merely by living a number of years. People grow old by deserting their ideals. Years wrinkle the skin, but giving up enthusiasm wrinkles the soul. So, thank you, Daddy, for having a twinkle. Thank you for my life. And I say that to the Divine Father that's in all of us. Father, Mother, God, the presence. The presence. So, in the words of Spock, go forth and prosper. Let your life be a twinkle. And that's it for the moment.